Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canadians with Disabilities and Their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host for the show, and today I am pleased to welcome Jake Matheson versus his dad, Neil Matheson.
Marvel.
Yeah, so it's Jake versus Neil. Hello, Jake, and welcome to the show.
And you notice that I'm not wearing the headset.
I see that.
And we had to Mickey Mouse before the show because the sound settings are quite a bit different when it's not piped through the headset. So we're winging it again. But
yeah, it's always good to wing it. That's what I do. I just kind of wing it, throw it out there. Mudsling, but there's no pink unicorns right this second. But who knows? They might just pop out wherever they pop out, right?
Yeah,
because that's what they magically do. When it comes to magic, there's no magic in having a disability, though. So Jake, tell me, what is it like to be the son of a person?
Actually, what we before you go into that, Brent, we should preface this for anybody that didn't see the teaser. We should say that somebody left a comment on my website through the send us your feedback for if you want to be a guest or a guest idea, and some guy, what was his name again? Ben. Yeah. And Ben. I think it was one of Jake's friends, but it could be a legit ask. I don't know. But anyway, one of these person, they typed in and said, "I'm praying that Jake will be the next guest on Brent's podcast." So I'm thinking it's a joke, but even so, I thought it might be worth honoring it because it might be an interesting topic. And I cleared it with you first as well, so we talked about it. But I do think it'd be an interesting topic because it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. The seeing things from the other side of like I can talk about my own experience, but sometimes it's helpful to hear a third person's perspective of what it's like from the other side, right?
Yeah, it's like I want to hear Jake's perspective on, and then we'll get into that in just a moment. Everyone, so people tuning in right now, again, I have Jake Matheson on, and Jake is the son of Neil Matheson. Jake doesn't have a disability. He wasn't born with a disability. And so hearing Jake's perspective of what it's like growing up, just being Jake, like that's what I want to hear, right? Just being Jake. So tell everybody who Jake is.
I think Jake is
aspiring.
Yes. He is an aspiring learner in many things. Like I'm currently learning music and stuff, right? Chasing my dreams, I guess. And it has been a unique experience growing up with my dad with his disability. It is. Yes, that is the life of Jake.
As far as the music side goes, I mean, you definitely got that from your mom. You didn't get it from me. I'm not musical in any sense of the word. You have
a nice voice.
I have a nice voice, but that's where it ends. I don't I can sing well in the shower, but I have no musical talent beyond that. So the fact that Jake taught himself how to play the piano. He basically taught himself, and then so he learned everything by ear. And again,
wow.
I
That's
mean,
awesome.
that's not me.
Yeah.
That's just natural talent that he got from his mom. And you know, and then I got him a few lessons, but he basically has taught himself. So it's cool.
Fabulous. That's really awesome, Jake.
Yeah.
Sing us a song. Sing out loud. Sing out strong. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. I see you in the chat.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, Dan.
Good job.
Yeah. So
Good
Dan,
job.
we have Jake on today, and Jake's telling us his story about being who Jake is, and we're learning more from Jake of what it's like. Tell me, like, when I say what it's like, tell us like when you were a child.
Like any unique experiences stick out that you remember?
Yeah, anything that stands out.
Like anything that kind of special or unique that maybe other kids wouldn't experience? I've got a few, but I want to hear.
Well,
you remember
in many different circumstances, sometimes we have to take more effort into certain things, like to get you around. For example, like for traveling, that is one difference because of your disability.
Especially now, I call Jake my porter boy. A porter boy because I've got my wheelchair. It's over there off camera, but I've got my wheelchair now. We put it in the car when I go to church, and I call him my porter boy. So he takes the wheelchair and he folds it up. It's a foldable chair. He folds it up and lifts it up and puts it in the trunk, and then lifts it out and assembles it again. So yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Yeah, and like what are like some of the adventures that you've gone through over time with your dad?
There was one adventure that I remember very recently. We went hiking over at, what's it called? Not Bridal Falls.
Oh yeah, Shannon Falls.
Shannon Falls, yes.
In Squamish.
With
that's a nice area. I love that area.
Yeah, it was very pretty there.
Yeah. I wasn't strong enough to push him up the hill. So we had other of his friends who came who helped out with, so that was good. So you got to see the view of the waterfall.
You got to build your biceps a little bit.
Yeah.
Gotta push up that hill. Oh yeah, I know which hill, up toward the waterfall, right? Yes, it's oh yeah.
But as his dad, like I remember, well, like for example, like my first wife, I've said before, she was in a motorized wheelchair. She was disabled her whole life, born with a disability like myself. Hers was fairly severe, though. It was arthrogryposis, which is you're born with joints that are fused. So she had very limited mobility in her hands and arms and legs. So, like as I said, she was confined to a motorized chair most of basically her whole life, and she had 24/7 care aids her whole life too. And so that was a very unique experience to always have care aids around. But what I was going to say is one of the few things that I loved, and actually, Elana didn't get it at first. Jake's mom, she didn't get it at first because I would always say, like, I really want to go shopping with you, like just grocery shopping, and she's like, what for? And I said, well, it's really close to the house, and it's an opportunity for us to just go alone without a care aid because it's so close, and we get to spend like an hour alone just as a family, like you, me, and Jake can go for an hour to the grocery store just to poke around with no care aid. And to me, that was a really special thing. And at first, like Elana thought, well, that's silly. But then she got it, that it was like a really special thing to just go somewhere that's really close to the house. Because the reason is she didn't want to be away from the care aid. And you can understand. I mean, you have to go to the bathroom or something. It kind of freaked her out to be away from her care aid, right? But if it was really close to the house, she felt comfortable enough to do it. So,
that comfort zone,
and one of the things that was kind of cool is, that scene from Cheers. Anybody that knows Cheers, they don't, when that character Norm would come in, they'd all go Norm, and that was kind of what it was like. It was kind of like what it was like with me and my previous wife and Jake. Like we'd be coming in, and immediately like everybody would know our name, like we
would know your names. Yeah,
we would sing the, but you know what I mean, like it would just be like you kind of enter the store and you kind of feel like rock stars because you're immediately like heads turn and stuff, right? And it was kind of a cool thing. And sometimes you think you're not being, I'm sure you get that too, where like you and I and everybody with a disability, you're just going through life, just trying to get by and just do the normal life thing, and you're not really thinking, are people noticing, are they paying attention? And I know when Jake's mom died, everybody at the store, everybody at Superstore there at my house, everybody was like wanting to know like what happened, and they were all like shocked, and everybody was coming up to me and and it's like, wow, like people actually do care, and it just kind of surprised me, like, and that's what I mean. Like we've talked about before too about, I've said that analogy or the metaphor of throwing the stone in a pond and having that ripple effect, and we're all like that, right? Where you throw a stone and you're creating ripples without even realizing it, and that's what I think. For me as a parent with a unique situation of being a disabled dad, and then also he had a disabled mom, it's a very unique situation. It's very, I mean, again too, like when Ilana got pregnant, or even before she got pregnant, like we did a lot of research, and we decided we're thinking like, who else in BC, where else is there where there's two disabled parents are gonna have a child? And we couldn't find anybody. Like you can find example of like one disabled parent, but not two. Like we actually did a lot of research, and maybe there is one, but we couldn't find any. Like, so as far as this was like, Jake is almost 15 now, so we're going back 15 years, but there was no, like, we were kind of trailblazers, right? And it was just interesting. Yeah.
Well, having the like you said, the ripple effect, the positive energy that really reflects back and forth, right? I mean, Jake teaches you things, and you're teaching Jake things, but and it kind of coincides together, right? I mean, it's like naturally learning music. I mean, that's amazing, Jake. Like, I just so proud of that, because it's such a great. It's not even just a hobby; like it's something that you really take a lot of keen. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Not an interest for
it's like a passion.
It's a passion. It just really comes to you, and then the music intro that you put.
That's really cool.
That is so awesome.
And actually, he's come up with a second one that we're thinking about changing the outro. So it's we have two music now, which is cool.
I could even play it now. No. Do we have time?
Can we play it?
You have it on your phone, don't you?
Oh yeah, I guess.
Or would it be better if I put it on the computer and played it?
I don't know if people could hear it though. If we try to, it might not come through.
We can try, and if it not, people will listen later.
We're going low tech here, so I don't know if the tech's gonna work, but we'll try.
See what happens here.
We'll try. It might be on if you go to if you go to the, what is it, the OneDrive, right?
So while everyone, while they're working on that, everyone, again, Jake Matheson's joining me today with his dad, Neil Matheson, and talk about his lived experience as an able-bodied citizen of British Columbia, Canada, and talking with his dad, who is a disabled person in BC, in the Lower Mainland of British Columbia, Canada, and learning what Jake has gone through over time. 15, he's growing fast. You're growing fast, Jake, and learning lots from, I'm sure your dad showed you so much about the shows of people who have had on about lived experience, and hearing the shows, and learning back of the in time of when I used to have like a Twitter space going, and it was audio based, but getting the people together, right? And that was like a community. What we built, we've transformed it onto YouTube. Now people can now send in their comments, and they can watch us live, and
and ask Jake to be the guest.
And ask Jake to be the guest, and a new exciting one, and I know I keep mentioning to it, but coming up very soon. Probably within this month or next month, we're going to be having the new segment added onto our show. We just have to fine tune it, but it's going to be people will be able to call in. So with that, it'll be interesting. People will be able to call in, and there'll be kind of like a radio, like when you call in there, but it'll be like, you've got so much time to to basically ask the guest, or ask myself, or ask Neil questions, and then we'll move on to the next people. And
then we'll have Ben calling in and saying, "What is Jake's favorite color?"
What is Jake's favorite color? Yeah, that's a good question. What is your color, Jake?
What is your favorite color?
Try to guess.
Orange.
No. It is a nice color, but it's not my favorite.
Blue. Light blue.
Close.
Show me
the color.
It is purple.
Purple. Yeah, I said purple yesterday, and you said no, it's green.
Purple.
What?
I said purple yesterday. And then you said, I know, I want.
Oh, because we were designing the thumbnail. And I did not want to do purple because it looked weird.
And I said, I know what your favorite color is. I said it's purple, and you said no, it's green.
I said jokingly it's green.
Okay, well there you go. I didn't know you were joking, because I was actually surprised when you said no.
No, I don't like purple.
But what's interesting is you mix the colors together, and you get a whole brand new color.
Cotton candy. I like cotton candy too, Dan.
I always thought that was really interesting. You mix colors together, and you get different colors.
You made an interesting point earlier, Brent. I just want to go back to.
Sure.
You said that Jake is learning from me, and I'm learning from Jake. And it's so true. That's one of the cool things about being a parent, is that because I always think like how much worse it would have been if my wife died and that was it. There was nobody, right? Like if Jake wasn't around, or like if he didn't exist, how much harder that would have been. Like to be able to, in some cases, I was, on one hand, it kind of sucked that I wasn't able to. What are you doing with them? I hope you can still hear us.
No, I can hear you.
On one hand, I was worried that no, see, now you broke my concentration. Yeah, I was, it's hard to grieve, right? Because I didn't really have time to grieve, because Jake was so young. He wasn't even 5 years old yet. And so I was kind of forced to just park my grief and just focus on Jake. And so on one hand that was tough, but on the other hand, it was kind of a saving grace thing that I was distracted. Like it was a good distraction to have, right? Because I think if he wasn't there, how much more amplified my grief would have been, right? So
Yeah.
it's just cool. Like even aside from the grief thing too, it's just cool to see, you know, it was like joke about like a mini me, like, you know, you have the opportunity to create the good and bad, like reflected in yourself, gets reflected to your, you know, your son or daughter or whatever. And
It's
like I said,
like a mirror, you know.
yeah,
Mirror.
and it can be good and bad things, but it's neat to see, especially the good things that are reflected back. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Or like things that are uniquely his that, you know,
Yeah.
you can say, well,
Things that stand
I had
out.
no part in that, but it's still cool.
It is. It's really cool actually. It's, you know, seeing the differences between, you know, you you Neil and you Jake. I mean, like learning, like I say, and that the key thing is learning from each other, but looking at the attributes, right, of personality types versus each one, and it's so connected, but at the same time, learning like different things. Like you're so good at like say music and in technology wise, and your dad is too, like that's so, and it kind of works coincide with each other. It's amazing
Mhm.
how you see the similarities at the same time, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny because you both nodded your head at the same time. It was like so cool.
Synchronized.
Yeah, synchronized, you know?
One of these things is not like the other. One of these
Yeah,
things is not the same.
but at the same time it is the same, but at the same time a little bit different.
I always joke that you know, because Jake's mom was a Jew. Like she was born to a Jewish mother, but then she was adopted to Dutch Christian parents. But so she had Jewish blood. So Jake is a Jew, and so I always say that Jake's the Jew and I'm the Gentile. So well, yeah, it's kind of cool because they always, you know, when you go to church every Sunday, the pastor always talks about the difference between Jew and Gentile, you know. So it's kind of funny.
The best of both.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's so cool. You know, so Jake, what do you remember when you were young, growing up with your dad? Do you remember anything that stands out, like how your dad navigated with accessibility wise, like etc., and how things have progressed and in so many positive ways?
Honestly, I don't remember much, but
Yeah.
mostly it was I'm just used to the feeling of having you as the father, right? With the disability, I'm used to it. I'm not exactly sure how it would be to have fully able parents or a fully able dad.
Do you feel
If it was different,
missed out on anything though?
No, not really. Other than maybe traveling more. But
Maybe.
yeah. It's like it's like you've always said you would rather keep your disability now instead of like magically heal yourself because you're more used to this now.
Yeah, well, it's just because your dad is who he is, right? And you are who you are, and you work with it. And it's like people ask me the same thing. Well, what would you do if you magically didn't have a disabilities? I don't know.
Mike is
Like I'm just
echoing.
who I am.
Yeah, Brent says that your mic is echoing a little bit. We were kind of worried about what are you doing, Jake?
My mic was echoing.
See, did you add a source? Don't mess with things and add a source.
I did that.
Just leave it be.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a new sound setup we're doing today, so We've had to like Mickey Mouse with the sound a little
Okay,
bit.
you can hear me?
Is it echoing still? Dan?
No, it's not echoing on my end.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're trying-
no, it's
I
all
have the
good.
song ready. If like
Okay. Do you want
I have it on the phone, so it's not going to be very good quality.
to? This is low tech. We're talking.
Low tech, low tech. Hi, low tech, high tech.
Is it playing? You can hear
You can hear me?
Here it comes.
Hey, I can hear you guys.
This is the song.
I can hear. I can hear you both loud and clear,
Can you hear the song?
but it's not echoing on my end at all.
We're playing the song a little bit. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, I can't quite make that out.
If you can't make it out, we just stop it.
It's horrible. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh well.
The low tech didn't work.
If you want to hear it, it's in the teaser for this.
It in the teaser for
in the intro.
Actually,
Can I just like
the segment?
show it quick?
Yeah.
The next podcast. 1 sec. Is it possible? Can
Yeah.
I try?
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
don't mess with the settings too much.
I won't.
'cause
I won't. I won't.
Yeah.
It's it's all good to where
Oh man.
YouTube.com.
My son is freaking me out because he's like,
That's good, guy.
I'm used to being the guy that runs the show, and my son's taking over.
he's going through the settings here and there.
Yeah, it's like, let's mess with this now.
Hey, can you hear me?
Windows 10. I don't know how to do this. I'm just gonna not do it today.
Yeah.
Just watch the
show.
Yeah,
but
if you watch the teaser video for when we advertised it, it's in the teaser.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
I can hear him with a low echo, and yes, can hear the song. It did play.
Yeah, so like I said, we're doing the sound a bit different today, so it might sound a little bit different. Hopefully, when we because we're doing a backup recording too, so maybe the echo won't show up in the backup recording, the one that we do for the Zoom backup.
Yeah, it's all the joys of technology, everyone. We're just we're messing with it today, and it's all good.
Yeah,
this is a great episode. And it's always great having Jake join us.
Yes.
Yeah, it really livens things up in a different way of different perspectives of different lived experience, and learning. And when you're in school, Jake, is there any of your pupils in your classes that have disabilities?
There was one kid, yes. He was I forgot when this was. I think it was grade 6 or grade 7. He had autism, I believe. And yeah.
That's quite common.
Yes.
Yes.
And he always had a youth support worker there to help with him with the work. And other than that, there was a drama class that I wasn't actually in last year that I went to every now and then. My careers teacher just kind of let me go because all my work was done. So I went to this drama class, and there was one kid in a wheelchair actually who was in the drama class, and I was just surprised to see that. I didn't expect it, and it works okay too. And it's nice and inclusive.
I think I've asked you this before, but maybe not. Is like, do you think that you're more what's the word? More accepting or empathetic? You know the word empathetic. You know empathy, right? You know what empathy means?
Somewhat.
Empathy is the ability to put yourself in another person's. Put yourself in another pair of shoes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And have empathy for different experiences. Do you think you're more empathetic towards people with disabilities because you have an example already, and
Yeah,
you've actually
probably.
been around a lot of wheelchairs too, not just
Yeah.
my disability, but other disabilities. Because I used to take him all the time when I used to work for the Disability Foundation too. I would just take him along, you know. So
Neat.
he would be surrounded with people in wheelchairs all the time, you know.
You know, and you know the word I'd call that is just so resilient.
Yeah, that's the new cat word now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing
Yeah.
that word. There's so much
Yeah.
resilient. It's like,
How resilient are you with the $500 shelter allowance now?
yeah, maximum. And if you don't have a fixed address, you don't get it. If you don't have a,
Yeah.
you know, if your rent hasn't gone up, you don't get the full $125. If your rent's only $395, well, it's impossible. It shouldn't be $395, but yeah, you get $20 increase.
Yeah.
But if your rent is substantially way above that level, you're going to get the full amount. But if you're in subsidized housing, supportive housing, you don't get that amount. You know, Neil, you know, it should have gone, that amount should have just gone to support, or like a brand new name. Like you know, and I want to see that the word like support and shelter completely gone. A brand new resilient name.
Yeah.
So
you know, I have a funny story, and Jake will know this because like you know, I've talked before that I would send angry emails, you know, to Shane Simpson or his predecessors, you know, about the clawback. And I was like, you know, I get angry, send these emails and like, you know, and then Jake would see me where I'd have this, like, I'd have this angry face, you know, kind of thing. And he'd be like, "You've been writing emails to the government again, haven't you?" And I'm like, yes. You know, so it's kind of funny. It's like, you know, and then I'm like, whoops, you know, it's like, so you have to watch. I have to watch myself sometimes. It's like, you know, you don't realize that it's being noticed. It's like, oops.
Yeah. There are only 3 phases of you typing. It is the happy one, like typing to a friend who made a joke.
Yeah.
And then there's neutral. And then there's angry.
Angry, yeah.
And there's
no in between.
Yeah, and then you know, after I would write an email, I would be like still amped up, like, you know, an hour or 2 hours later, and Jake would be like, "You're still angry about the email?" You know, I'm like, yes. It's like, maybe you should stop writing emails. I'm like, yeah, maybe.
But it goes to show that, you know, Jake picking up on you know, you being angry about the email is like, well, then it's like a ripple effect. Like people then say, well, like why is the person upset? Why are they angry? Like, so that shows that that system is completely, you know, messed up, right? Because I mean, the clawback shouldn't happen. I mean, people should have just the resources that they need, right?
And Jake just made a comment about, you know, wishing that we could travel more. And we couple of years ago, we actually did go to a place that you know well. We went to Victoria for a couple of days. I did try to go and see you and Sonia, but remember that was the time that I had that food poisoning, and it was
right.
Like,
I remember that.
I got kiboshed.
Yeah.
But you know, we still had a good time.
Yeah.
And but you know, and not to say that I would have done this anyway, but just recently, for example, Jake through his school band, they planned a school trip to Disneyland, and actually, I was surprised that most parents were able to pay for it, because I think it was like between $4,000 and $5,000, and the vast majority of the students, the parents did pay for it.
They said it was 2,000 at first, and then
it was going to be 2,000. But see, the problem is that once you did the first deposit, it was non-refundable, and I was worried. Like I kind of thought, you know what, I have a feeling this is going to double or maybe triple in price,
Yeah.
and but even at $2,000, there's no way even at that point, there was no way I could afford it, right? So I let Jake know right away that, like, I knew he was going to be disappointed, but I was still surprised, even, like I said, even at the $2,000, if it had stayed there, that so many parents were just in it. Yeah. So like the majority of his class went, but Jake stayed home. And like I've said before, like it's been 10 years, and the government has essentially stolen. I mean, let's be real about, let's use real truth here. The government has stolen via clawback. They have stolen over $65,000 of my survivor's pension, and because they have stolen that has increased my that's money that I haven't been able to accumulate good interest off of that. Plus I've accumulated debt interest because I'm in the hole by $65,000, right? So that not only am I out the $65,000, I'm out the interest that I would have accumulated, and I'm out the penalty of the interest that I have to pay on the debt, right? I mean, I am servicing debt. I've been servicing debt for the last 10 years, and the only reason I can afford to do it is because I actually own my house. But I've been servicing a massive amount of debt on my house for the last 10 years because the government says I don't deserve a survivor's pension. So, and it's like I've said before, and I'll say this to to Sheila Malcolmson when she comes on, and I'll make clear, if she's listening now, I'll make clear, like, I'm not going to be attacking her, the person. It's all I said this to Shane Simpson too when I met him. I said, right. I'm not attacking you, the person, at all. Like, this is not about throwing daggers or arrows at you. I'm throwing daggers and arrows at the policy.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Because when you have a survivor's pension, or any pension, it doesn't have to be a survivor's pension, but when you have any pension that Harry Baines here is my MLA in Surrey Newton here, and he is the Minister for Labor, and one of his responsibilities is to protect pensions, right?
Oh.
And like, I mean, it's he's dealing with labor code and labor laws, and one of those labor laws is like, let's protect the authenticity of a pension, right? And it boggles my mind that one ministry, the Ministry of Labor, can be protecting the pension and say, yes, we must protect this as a protected income and a valid income, and yet when it crosses the floor over to the Social Development Ministry, it's become null and void. It turns into a pink unicorn, like I've always said. That all of a sudden this earned income privilege, that's a targeted wrapper. I love to use the same terms that they use, because they love to use the terms targeted wraparound support, right? Well, that's exactly what a pension is, but they're taking this targeted wraparound support income and turning it into nothing. Like, they're just making it evaporate into a pink unicorn and saying poof.
Magic.
Yeah.
Dan has a good question.
Yeah.
What's the reason they give for not providing that pension?
They say it's unearned.
Good question, Dan. Good question.
They say it's unearned, so they claw it back. Because even though everybody and their dog knows that a pension is something that you earn through work, that you pay into when you work, the only way you get a pension is through working. and the only way you pay into it is your own contribution, and plus your employer will also pay into it. So it definitely is an earned income privilege. I mean, that's in the DNA. I like to again stress those terms, that the DNA of a pension, the genetic makeup of a pension is an earned income privilege. So for them to say it's unearned is hogwash. It's nonsense. It's it's just
It's like when you're paying into like EI gets taken off, CPP gets taken off checks, and then when you need to go and get it, then they say, oh, you need to have that now taken off you. So what was the point of actually taking it off the check if you're just going to take, they're going to take it off your PWD check? I used to have that argument with the ministry all the time, Neil, and I say, well, are you eligible for EI? I go, I don't know. Probably, I probably am, because when I had my job, right?
But again,
and then they took it off me. Then they took it off me. I'm going, like, why? Well, because you're only allowed to have this. I'm like, but I paid into that.
Exactly.
And
again, let's speak truth here. I mean, I'm not making stuff up. I mean, they like to make stuff up. They like to create these pink unicorns, but it's just a fact that you just shouldn't be able to do that, right? I mean, when I did the I did a few submissions to the tribunal, right? And saying that the clawback is discriminatory, and the feedback that I got from the tribunal chair, he actually called me and he said, well, it's not discriminatory if the provincial government also claws back the money in the same way to elderly folks as well. Like, as long as they treat you as badly as they treat the elderly, it's not discrimination. And I thought, are you crazy? Like, that is just
they want to make it like equality across,
it's like
it's not resilient
discrimination. It's like, hey, it's equal discrimination, so therefore it's like not discrimination anymore. Like the whole idea of like where they can cherry pick. I mean, we've talked about the whole thing about the you're the big one about the with the rents, right, where you have subsidized rents versus non-subsidized rents, or like paying market value, and it's like playing the disabled person, playing the disabled person against the disabled person, right? That's what they do. It's a show game. That's what they do. That's what they do with income too. They say, well, this here we're going to cherry pick as invalid.
Door number one. What do you get?
Your pension is invalid income, and if you work at McDonald's for 8 hours, we'll say that's valid, and that's cherry picking. And if it's cherry picking, the definition of cherry picking is it's a form of discrimination. So you're going to tell me what's not discrimination, because we're also discriminating against the elderly too. So therefore, the discrimination is null and void. Hogwash, nonsense. It makes the government look foolish. I mean, I can't understand. And again, like I can feel I'm getting heated a little bit, but
that's okay. I mean, it's just
it makes the government. It makes the government honestly look foolish. And I even told the tribunal chair this. I said, like, so I said, if I was government for the day, I said, if I was allowed to be government for the day, and I clawed back all of the pensions of all of the MLAs, I said that wouldn't be discriminatory. And he said, well, that's the way the human rights code is written. And I thought to myself, well, if that's the way the human rights code is written, what's the point? Like, like if you're allowed to like make a systemic discrimination and just like throw this systemic discrimination and say, well, it doesn't matter if it's if like again, they would say that I had to show a real world example. I love this too. They said the tribunal chair said to me, like, you have to show a real world example, Neil, of how your disability is how your disability factors into being discriminatory, like how the government's being discriminatory based on your disability. And I said, well, how is that fair that I have to use real world examples and yet the government can throw unicorns at me? So they can make shit up and throw unicorns.
It's like having to prove yourself to them because their policies, how they've written their policies. You know what I would say to them: give me a pen. Let's modernize that. This change things. This is not working. Yeah, you're right, Neil. It's hogwash.
I mean, the fact that I have to
I elect you, Neil, as government for the day.
Yeah, I mean the fact that I have to stick to truth and honesty and say this is my real world example of disability discrimination, but they can just throw unicorns and just all this like fantasy made up crap and say, well, we don't have to stick to truth and honesty. We can just throw unicorns at you and say that's fair. But I have to prove myself as like I have to stay to what's true and honest and real, and they can just throw unicorns. And I told the chair, I said, that's nonsense. That is like utter nonsense that that the tribunal is set up that way that they can say, well, if you can't prove it by disability, if you can't prove it by age discrimination or sexual orientation, then any other systemic discrimination, we're just gonna like ignore that, because as long as the discrimination is equally applied, as long as we're discriminating against you, a person with a disability, the same as we're discriminating against somebody with that's old and taking away their pensions too, the discrimination is equal, so it doesn't matter anymore. That's just crazy.
It's like taking away, giving seniors a bus pass, but taking away from the disabled.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had a meeting. I just had a meeting just recently with a MLA, and we were talking about bus passes, Neil, and he says, "Well, explain to me." I had a meeting with Dan, and Jeff and Sonia, we all had a meeting with them, and he says, "Explain to me about this bus pass." I mean, the fiasco didn't they? I think they gave something and they took something, and I said, so I explained to them. I said, kind of summarize it. So the people listening to it now, once upon a time, decades and decades ago, we had a bus pass. Yeah. It was actually the bus rolled around, the wheels rolled around, right? Round and
it was a yearly bus pass.
Oh, yes. So the
yearly bus pass, $45 for the year.
Yeah, and it kept
on going. It was great. It helped 99.9% of the population.
And around we go. Yep, exactly.
And then lo and behold, somebody by the name of Michelle Stillwell came along, and she wanted equity in the system.
And then poof, the wheels didn't keep going around, right? They derailed off the cylinders, and the spokes came out, and well, I tell you, because
so she catered. Yeah, so she was catering to what the 1% that said this isn't fair. It was about 1% that wasn't fair, right?
Just a little handful of people.
It was like
out of a whole
it was legitimately like 1% that were complaining, and so she catered to the 1% that were complaining and said, "Well, we'll have to throw the whole thing out. Then the whole thing's crap. So let's throw it all out and let's make it equal." And let's inconvenience the 99% to cater to the 1% that's complaining. you know.
And here's the funny thing is that the seniors still got to have theirs. So. And I'm not saying that the seniors, I'm not saying that the seniors shouldn't have theirs. Absolutely, they should. So should the disabled, right? Yeah. I mean, you pay $45 once a year, and administration fee, that's what it was, and you got a yearly bus pass. Now, how the government looks at it is, when you phone up to their 1-800 number, they have a 1-800 number. You can phone up to the Ministry of Social Development Poverty Reduction. So you phone up and they say, well, you can still have a yearly bus pass if you want it. Oh, how's that? Oh, because you could just opt in and stay opted in.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do nothing. It just keeps on giving it to you. I go, I see. So what about people who need to take a taxi or a Uber, or they need to get around, maybe pay a family friend to drive them somewhere? Well, it just comes out of your basic amount. Well, people need that for extra food costs, inflation, everything going up. And they said they called it equity in the system. And I said, how is that equity? You give people that automatic that bus pass. Now they have to choose. They say 1 month, oh, you know what? I need that $52. Maybe I need to buy laundry soap. I need to go, maybe, I don't know. They need to household items that they need to buy, or they pay a family friend to take them somewhere. One cab, round trip. Boom. Well, what are you supposed to do the rest of the month? Stay home. Don't go to the food bank. You know, imagine if somebody needed to go to a food bank. Oh, get nutritional food. Well, I'm sorry, it's not always accessible. I'm not even going to get into that rant about it.
But let's spend $100 on cab fare to go to the food bank. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And a one-shot deal, and then the rest of the month you stay home. You stay home because that's what we need to keep you home. You know, I asked bus drivers over time and their opinion. And there was a bus strike we had in the Lower Mainland. You know that one that we had. And I talked to some bus drivers about the bus pass. You know, they said to me, it's ridiculous. They said the property taxes that are paid right now pay for that bus pass. It's all paid in when people pay their hydro. There's a transit levy that's in that hydro. It's a transit levy, folks. It pays for that bus pass. You know, and so when I met with the minister just recently, I said, I just want to see that bus pass restored back to its original state. Well, why did the government, take away? Of course, he admitted, their government made mistakes, right? So they move forward. Yeah, they admitted, they made a mistake. The current government made a mistake because they didn't restore it. They promised to, they never did. So, and I'm not here to do the shell game, blame game.
They also promised that they were going to end the clawbacks.
Yeah, they did. They
prior to the election in 2017.
Yeah,
and I said this before too. Literally everybody and their dog was saying it. It wasn't just one MLA. It was a whole host of them that were saying it. And I've told you before, and I've told the podcast before, that I was sitting directly across from Harry Baines, my MLA here, and I gave him the whole story of my clawback. He says, definitely, Neil, when we get in, the very first thing we're doing, we're going to eliminate the clawback. And what has it been now? Crickets.
6 years later, almost 7 years. Yeah.
6.5 years later, crickets.
Yeah.
We never said that. It's like a revisionist history. It's like, oh, did we say that?
It's interesting. Is the minister, when we had the meeting, he says, "Well, what excuse did they give about getting the bus pass when we took it away?" I said, "Well, they said they dismantled the system. The previous government." He goes, "You mean the one that I was with?" And he goes, "Hey, I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't elected." I go, "Exactly." I said, "I'm not here doing the blame game." I said, "We just want to have it restored." And every government admits, and no government's gonna be perfect, right? I mean, they're gonna make little hiccups, little mistakes, and then they admit that, hey, they're wrong. And the current government needs to admit that, hey, the other government took it away, and the previous premier, he campaigned on it. He said, give them the bus pass, remember?
Yeah, and it's not like there's a shitload of people with disabilities in this province, and we all stood up and took notice, right?
Yeah, there was a huge rally.
You have the premier or the future premier to be, and all these MLAs standing up and saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Yeah. We're going to give you back your bus pass. We're going to get rid of the clawbacks. Like I said, everybody and their dog, they were campaigning hard on it, hard. And
I remember that. It was pouring rain.
My ears were perked on both accounts. I was thinking, good, we'll get the bus pass back, and we're going to get
all the clawbacks are going to stop.
All the clawbacks are going to be gone. And I, for one, my ears were like right up, and I'm like, this is great, you
Yeah.
know, and they didn't deliver on both counts. They got in, and it's like, oh well, you know, we said that, but I guess we didn't really mean it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It was dismantled. You know, and we don't know how to put it back together. And they do the blame game, right? I mean, rather than doing the blame game, just fix the problem. And they have the policies. If they're that old, redo it. It's like saying, oh well, we can't give big enough increases. If we do, the system crashes because their IT system is 20 years old. It was last updated in 2002. And they say, oh, yeah, the system can't handle bigger increases, really? Then how come when they got into government, they gave $100 increase, then they skip a year, but because then the next year they say, oh, well, we restored the bus pass. That was the reason why they didn't give an increase that year. The next year they gave $50. Then we know what happened after that. Then COVID hit. So there was no increase during, technically, there was no increase in the budget in 2020. 2021 or 2022, but because the COVID supplement was there and $300 was there in 2020, it got launched just after the budget time, but there was actually nothing in the actual budget.
Yeah, and it is.
But then they took away. But then they took most of it away.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but isn't it like roughly going back to like 1990?
Yeah,
the shelter allowance has only increased. Was it $50?
Yeah,
in the last 30 years.
I can fill you in on that. I've done my research.
It's about $50 in 30 years, right?
Yeah. So the people watching or listening to the podcast. So here's a little bit of history when it comes to BC's shelter maximum shelter allowance. Now, I can only go back as far as in my research back to 1989. Okay, that's going back in the time machine here. Doc Brown, I need the time machine. Let's go back in time. We need to go back to find out what the shelter rates were. Okay, so, well, our government is pleased to announce a historic increase to our shelter rates back in 1989. And back in 1989, yeah, you could rent a place. So here you go. Here's $225, folks. $225. And now I couldn't find exactly the month, but now my research shows in 1992. In February of 1992, it increased to $275.
Okay.
From $225. Now, from 1992, February 1992, till April 1st of 2007, it stayed unchanged, and it finally went to $375. Okay, so it stayed frozen for a long time.
Yeah.
So
which is crazy.
And so in 2007, like it was actually at 325. Sorry, it went 325 in 2007, April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
April Fool's Day. Hey, here's a joke for you.
The day of pink unicorns.
Yeah, poof. We're gonna increase it. So we increased it by $50.
Yeah.
People's rent way back then, they weren't, the rents weren't outrageous. They were going up. But $50, yeah, I mean, if a person got a $10 increase or a $20 increase in the rent, they still had a little bit left, which still it wasn't a lot, right? But the buying power was there to somewhat buy some stuff. Now, $50. So from 2007, April 1st, 2007, until July 19th of 2023. Whoa, that's quite a jump here. Over 16 years and 3 months.
Yeah.
But we made the announcement in February 28th of 2023 that we're going to increase to $125, but it doesn't take effect for 5 months, folks.
Yeah.
And I asked the Minister Malcolmson, in a meeting. Actually, it wasn't me that asked that question. It was Sonia that asked it. Sonia, you asked the question. What did you ask the minister?
Why so long?
Why? Yeah, why so long? She said. Why so long? Why does it take 5 months? And here's the answer the computer system was last updated in 2002. It can't handle the increases.
Well, she could have contracted out my son, and my son could have probably fixed it.
Well, yeah, I'm yeah, exactly. Because but don't worry, they're getting a new system though in two years from now. Don't worry, they're getting a brand new system, state of the art.
Dan wants to know. He's been sitting on this question for a while.
He's been sitting patiently.
Yeah, he wants to know what Jake's opinion of our rant about the rent and the bus pass, all that stuff. Like, what's your opinion?
What's your opinion, Jake? What's your observation?
To put it simply, I think it is all what's a family friendly word for this?
It's
a pile of dog poop. Yeah. None of it truly makes sense to me.
Let's have a big poop emoji.
Yes.
Come up here. Poop emoji.
Actually, I can do that. Let me do that really quick.
I don't know if we can. Okay.
Yes, we can. Of course
Okay.
we can.
That would be a big giant pile.
Oh no.
Oh, it doesn't show up. Too bad.
No emojis?
We're not allowed to have emojis.
It doesn't let me have emojis.
Sorry.
That's stupid.
Question
marks.
We're doing
question marks.
We're doing low tech again.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Just imagine as a poop emoji.
Yeah. We tried.
Yes. I think the government, I don't understand them. Instead of helping, they are not doing nothing, they are making it worse. They are purposefully making the situation
deliberately on purpose. I always use the term deliberately on purpose. Yeah.
Yes.
Or no, accidentally on purpose, I should say. Accidentally on purpose.
Thank you, Brent.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there's the poop.
There it is.
Yes.
There's our low tech poop emoji.
There's our low tech.
Yeah. Yeah, we're right up against the hour here. I don't know if anybody. I mean, Dan, it looks like he's the only one in the chat here.
Yeah.
What one little father story that I'll pass along before we end the segment is I used to take Jake on my scooter all the time when he was just a baby, right? I would take him everywhere because, of course, like we couldn't just leave him home. Like one of us had to take him. So I would typically take him on my lap when I went grocery shopping, or sometimes he would say, "Oh, Dad, I want to go to Old McDonald's," meaning McDonald's, but he would call it Old McDonald's, and so I would either take him to the grocery store or to Old McDonald's on my scooter on my lap, and I just remember him always like when he was a baby, like falling asleep on my lap, and it was just so cool. Like it was one of those pleasures as a dad. You'd just be sitting there and your son be fast asleep on your lap, and I'd kind of like bend my head down and I'd be like sniffing his hair, and it was like awesome. It's like one of the best feelings of being a dad, and it's just an awesome experience of being a dad. But it's interesting that there are so many people out there that when we would go to the grocery store with a carried or anywhere somewhere, some people would assume that Jake was their son, because it's like, well, of course he can't be the son of two disabled people. That's just illogical. Like, and then we even had like several adults, and I mean, of course, kids too would even say like, like, how is it possible that you had a son? Like, that I think the assumption is that by a lot of people, or by more than you'd think, is that people with disabilities are asexual beings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how did you have your son? It's like, well, we
My friends from school ask that a lot.
yeah, and it's
And I don't know how to explain it. It's
Yeah.
just like,
it's like how do most people have kids? That's how we did it.
Yeah.
But it's like, but everybody's like shocked. It's like when we announced that, that Ilana was pregnant, everybody's like, the jaws dropped, and people were like, from our own family were saying, how is this possible? Like, how did you guys do this? Like,
Yeah.
it was the biggest shock in the world that this was even possible, right? So it's just bizarre. It was bizarre.
oh, there you
The
go.
dancing one.
Yeah.
It's singing.
It should be singing.
It is singing,
Yeah.
I think.
What is the song it's singing?
I wonder.
I wonder.
Maybe it's singing pink unicorns are a pile of shit. Pink unicorns are a pile of shit. Pink unicorns are a pile of shit. Yippee ki yay. Something like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So Jake, what have you learned of the voyage that your dad has gone through so far, and like through advocacy, like learning stuff of what your dad's going through, and listening to like an overview of listening to the people with disabilities, of their experiences, of what their lived experience, like what would you, if you had the opportunity of saying to any official, like what would you like to say as an overview, like just to the policy makers, what would you like to say to them, like what would you like to see happen?
I would love to see the clawbacks get removed and all the money returned, but
Yeah,
that I don't know if that'll happen.
Because my son would have really enjoyed going to Disneyland.
Exactly.
But that 60,000 whatever dollars is not with you.
65,000 plus and counting.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm hearing echoing around too. Like decision making that governments around this beautiful country that we have, they have the opportunity of making change for a positive way to help people and make things a lot better. It's always excuses. That's one thing I've learned over time. It's just excuses. It's policies. It's excuses. They know, the government knows how to do it, and they just playing the shell game. It's not my problem. It's your problem. It's not my problem. And then the sad part is that it's not. You're right, Neil. It's not the minister or if it's a lady minister or a man minister, whoever gets in, or whoever it is gets in, right? It's not like they're just thrown in there.
Exactly.
But it's the policy.
It's the policy that's messed up. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so they try to get in and change it. And then they realize, oh crap. Yeah, there's that poop again.
And I've said this before too, and this is where I give total props to Shane Simpson.
Yeah.
Because he is a man of strong morals, I know. And when he found out that, I mean, the government was really trying to push him, like, do this, and when he wouldn't do it, he fell on his sword. Yeah, fell on a sword, and he walked away. And I mean, full props for that, and we have to say it again, if Sheila Malcolmson is listening, and I will tell her on the show as well, like when we do have her on, like full props for her to come on, because that she's going to take some arrows, but I'll make the point. I will make the point of saying, again, these arrows aren't directed at you.
Exactly.
They're directed at the policy. I mean, we have to make that crystal clear. It's never like, even with my most angriest emails, and I did send a few that I kind of regret. I wish I could take back a few, but even with ones that were a little bit misguided, I was really always trying to target the policy. I was never targeting Shane Simpson or anybody else.
Oh no, exactly.
It was only about, like,
I
I believe in righteousness, right? And like, how is how is clawing back money from a widower and or widows and widowers, how is that righteous policy? It's not. I mean, that's the truth. And let's speak truth and honesty here. Clawing back income from a widow or a widow, from widows and widowers, is not righteous policy. I mean, this is not my opinion. I am not speaking personal opinion here. I'm just speaking fact. I'm speaking fact and truth. Right? It's not, this is not my opinion. I'm just speaking straight facts and truth here. You know, I'm just giving it 100, you know?
Yeah, totally. And that's why I want people to really understand of what Neil is, you know, projecting out there, is the fact, is the truth. And I say this all the time too. Like I still learn from other advocates. I learn. And that's what the show is about. It's about lived experience, but it's also learning from my guests when they come on, and whoever it may be, because I'm still learning. I learn from a lot of things. I learned from Neil. Neil teaches me a lot. Jake, you've taught me a lot too. What you've gone through with dealing with your dad too. Like technology wise, like you've taught me of different like for technology wise. I mean,
and
maybe
getting them involved in the channel has been really
cool.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. You've taught me a lot of maybe of ways of kind of presenting of the audio wise, or like because your dad kind of reflects that back to me. So you're teaching your dad, and then he tells me like of it's like hey, it's like he puts his hand, go ahead. I remember that time where I was like, and I was looking here because I had a direct message that was sent to me, and somebody had said, "Well, can you please ask a question?" And I think, okay, I got. He said, like, okay, 10 seconds, the mic's going. I'm thinking, okay, good.
And I kept going.
And I'm like typing the message. I said, I'm actually on live now. I got to go. Awesome, Brent, you're on. I'm like, oh yeah. And they had the guest on. I'm like, oh crap. And so that's why that's why I really emphasize to guests is like, or anyone who wants to send a message on to YouTube, like send your questions in, right? Or now there's a new feature on your website, daddybentlake.com, is
on the media tab. If they go to
on the media
daddybentlake.com and then go to the media tab, there's
and
a spot at the bottom as do you want to be the next guest on Brent's podcast? And it's not even if you want to be the next guest, it's you can submit a show idea too. Like if you have an idea for a show, like a topic or an idea for a suitable guest, you can also submit that. It's any feedback at all.
Yeah, any recommendation.
You send that in and it comes directly to me. And this is why
that's why I'm here.
That's why Jake is here.
Yeah.
So it works.
It works.
We will see your feedback and we will do it.
My son is proof that feedback works, right?
It does.
We're actually doing the show that was requested that we do. So
and that's why I encourage people also to, when you're watching a live, if you're watching a live, send in your comments like Dan has done. Like send in your comments on YouTube, and we'll monitor it. Hopefully, the best way we can to get through all the questions that come in. Sometimes we get bombarded with questions and we don't always see them. Like for me personally, when I'm on the show, I'm not looking at YouTube. Like I'm actually focused on the guest. And the guest is always the center of the attention. So I don't even, the odd time I may glance down, at something, but I'm still focused on the guest. That's why I have Neil and Jake. They're doing the stuff there. Like if Jake's not there, Neil is watching all the stuff that's going on. It really makes a difference, Jake. Having your input, what you're doing behind the scenes with your dad too. It really helps a lot. And thank you on that one. And I just want people to know that, you're more than welcome to come on the show. Definitely reach out to Neil, and he'll schedule you in. Send feedback, like Neil mentioned, through the tab section on his website. It's really helpful. Don't be scared. Like if you want to come onto the show, it doesn't matter what the topic may be. If you're not really sure, we can figure something out based
We
on.
we always wing it anyway. So
We wing it. We wing it. And we just go with the flow, and we have a good time. I don't want people to feel all nervous. What what do I say? What do I say? Just be yourself. That's all I want. I just want people just to be themselves, because that's what it's about. It's all about you. I want to hear from you, lived experience. If it's you want to talk up, come on and talk about food banks. Let's talk about food banks. And you know who I'm referring to watching it, right?
Yeah.
If you want to come on, like rather than just leaving comments,
we'll have them on.
yeah, I mean, rather than like sending comments out like, oh, he's just going to be bitching, complaining about food banks if we rate rent versus shelter or support. Come on, dude. Like, if you want to come and talk about food banks, I'll give you some airtime. Let's talk about food banks, right? I mean, let's just be real. Let's just get along with each other. I mean, come on, like, is it nutritional reasons why food banks is supposed to be for everybody? It's not for everybody. It may work for some. It doesn't work for everybody. So
it doesn't work for me personally.
It doesn't work.
I'm glad it works for some people.
Yeah, like for me, it doesn't work. I mean, accessibility wise, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. That's one of the big reasons why it doesn't work for me.
And also for dietary reasons, it doesn't work for me. And like
I said, I'm glad that some people like love them, and that's fine. That's their opinion. If it works for you, great. But like for me personally, they don't work. So
and that's why food banks were never put out there as a.
Go ahead, Jake has a comment.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so just Dan said something. First of all, I am the better Tetris player. Thank you. He also says I can call Brent names and he won't know in the media tab.
That's right. You can be you have to supply an email address.
It can be a fake email.
But you could do a fake email, I guess, and nobody would know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Brent's email at email.com.
Yeah,
there we are. But when getting back to just to conclude about the food bank stuff, it's it may, like, and you're right, Neil. I mean, it may work for some people. It doesn't work for all. And hey, kudos to the ones who get nutritional food. Like I know, in some regions, and I say in Ontario or in Ottawa, Ontario, or outlying regions, they do supply some really good food apparently, and that's great. That's I mean, wholesome food like lunch, soups, you name it. And that's great. Those are probably smaller little companies that are providing that. I've never been a big fan about promoting food banks, and that's people probably who know me know that I don't promote food banks. Why? Because they were never supposed to be there as a permanent fixture. Why I know that is going back in time. My mom, speaking of that, today, Neil, everybody, nobody knows this. Actually, Sonia does. Today would have been my mom's 98th birthday today.
Oh, wow.
It would have been her 98th birthday. 6 days ago,
congrats to your mom.
Yeah, 6 days ago.
Cheers to her in heaven.
Happy birthday, Mom.
We salute you. Yeah.
6 days ago, she almost made her 81st birthday. She was 6 days out. She had Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. She was always very active all her life. And I saw her health. And before I moved out, I saw it going down, like rapidly. And what happened was that she was renting. Let's give a little brief story about this. So, my mom was renting a house with my brother since I was just like a little toddler. I all I remember is going on a teeter-totter, and I remember flying off. That's all I remember. And I went bang. Apparently, I hit. Well, and I still have a little welt in my head. A little crest right there. And I asked my mom, like, years later, why do I have that? She goes, do you remember when you were a little teeter-totter, you went flying off, you went flying in the air? I said, oh, I don't, all I remember is bang. I felt this big thud. She goes, yeah, well, you hit the bar on it. You went flying up and then bang. So I remember all the good times though I had growing up way out in rural Langley. It was great. I mean, peaceful area, nice and quiet. Eventually, we got public transit. I'd take the old coach line bus and go downtown. Then, as I came older, I got a bicycle, and people go, "Oh my God, how do you ride a bike? I mean, you're visually impaired." my vision's on a level where I can still ride. Like I can still do things. I just have trouble, really difficult time reading tiny small print, right? So, but my mobility wise, I can still ride a bike and stuff. I haven't ridden a bike in years, so I don't know. I have to buy another one, but might be kind of scary for a while. But I rode my bike downtown because I wanted that freedom of just being able to be accessible, like have my accessibility, be able to come and go from where I lived, because it was like an hour and 40-minute walk to go downtown. And I bicycle, I could get down there in like half an hour.
Yeah.
Actually, one time I clocked it, Neil. I clocked it. I went down this hill, and I had, of course, as time went on, I got a faster bike. I clicked it into the highest gear.
What are you doing to your eyelid, Jig?
So I went lying down. I got down there in 24 minutes. 24 minutes.
Oh,
I
wow.
clocked it.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So my mom says, "Be careful." So I remember all the good times. So what happened was over time, my mom would work a whole bunch of little jobs just to get by, to put a roof over our head, put food on the table. She made a lot of sacrifices over time. She was a single mother, brought my mom and my brother up. My dad left when I was 8 years old. And he had an issue, and it took me quite a while, years, traumatic, because he would have an issue of not being able to pull back the liquor. So my mom had to make an ultimate choice of for my brother and I to have a better way of life, a better standard of life. It was hard because I had to stay with a friend of my mom's for quite a while, months, while they went through a battle situation. And I'm going to talk more on a segment. I'll be doing a segment with Neil. I'll get you to schedule something in, and I'll just kind of give a little bit of a brief history of that. But I'm just going to give everybody a sneak preview here. But so kind of leading on that, I grew up with my mom and my brother. As time went on, and when I do my segment, I'll probably be repeating all this stuff anyway, but that's okay. And just the ones who are watching it now kind of get a better idea. So as time went on, my mom had a hobby farm. My gosh, all the animals. I'll get into that another time. She loved her animals. It was her family. My brother and I were her family. She couldn't have children, so she adopted my brother and I, and now I'll be talking more about that later on too. It came to a point where my mom, she had to make a choice of getting rid of animals because it was becoming too much work, and financially costs started going up just a little bit, but it was going up because she was struggling, right? So she had to drop one of her jobs. She used to be a crosswalk attendant at my elementary school.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so you can imagine, right? School today. Yeah. So I'd be there, and so that's okay. So over time, she used to pedal her bike because she didn't drive, so she had rode her bike everywhere. She put a basket on, go to the grocery store. She'd get a ride from neighbors sometimes too, right? And especially for feed for her animals. And it became a point where we had to get rid of a lot of the animals. It was my mom started showing some signs that things were slowing down, and she would be complaining about a few things to me. And I went to see my family doctor. Our family doctor found, and he said, well, the doctor said, well, patient confidentiality, I can't speak about that, to you, about your mom. And I said, doc, like, seriously, like, this is what's going on. Like, it's freaking me out. Like, what do I do? Okay, well, I need to schedule your mom to come in. So my mom came in, and they diagnosed her with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, right? And as we all know, the cure for that, so I had to kind of work with my mom on that. My mom then, my brother had to leave because my mom actually had to go through low income housing, she got to stay in her own home, but she had to qualify for a SAFERS program. And SAFERS is, people who are not familiar with it, it's a seniors program. It's like being under like BC housing, but you get to live in your own home. And seniors, they get to have that where it's 30% of their income. It's rent geared to income. Here's the kicker on that one. The threshold in British Columbia is so low that family net income cannot exceed, I believe it was at the time it was 26,000. I think it went to 30,000 now. Cassandra could get me the current stats on that again when I have her on, because she was talking previously when we had her as a guest, the difference between Alberta and British Columbia, where Alberta I think is over 40,000. I think it's for 46,000, where seniors, they could have other siblings living in your household. So the government wouldn't allow. It got to a point where my brother was there. He was working. My brother was working, and he's able-bodied. He wasn't on disability like myself.
Yeah.
So he was like Jake, right?
And I'm sorry
Jake,
if I'm laughing because Jake's making all these weird faces.
No, it's all good. And so it came to a situation where I had to leave, or my brother had to leave, and my mom had a meeting. And with the same worker at the time when we had workers, the one who handled senior supplements, the program, administered my program. We had a meeting, and my mom said, "It's so unfair. So you mean that I have to pick and choose of having one of my sons has to leave, one has to stay?" So the worker agreed that Brent needs to stay. Your other son has to go because I have ongoing care.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's just cruel policy.
It was a very hard decision for my mom to make. But my brother moved out with his well, it was supposed to be his wife, but it didn't work out that way. Another story. And it's be a long segment I'll have. Yeah. But learning lessons.
I mean, that goes to the, highlights again the importance of, a strong family. And like I take being a parent extremely seriously, right? And like I've kind of alluded to, there's a lot of people out there that will say, like, what the heck is a person with a disability? What right do you have, or what business do you have trying to raise a son, right? And why not? I mean, to me, the best what do you call qualifications for being a parent is to just make sure that you don't raise your son or daughter to be a jerk. I just summarize it that way a lot of that time with Jake, is like, as long as I'm raising you not to be a jerk, I've done my job.
Well, I remember when I was just a child, like we'd have some kind of social worker that would show up at my mom's house, and it's to make sure, because my mom was going through an issue with my dad at the time, right? And someone would show up, and then as time went on, like they would kind of peek in, just make sure everything's going okay, and it's fine. But it was hard. Like my mom had to, she was crying one day, and I said, "What?" She says, "It's because your brother has to leave." Well, I mean, for me, it wasn't a bad thing that he had to leave, because my brother and I got along. Like we really never got along. And I'll explain more on that. But I mean, technically, him and I are just cousins. So kind of a little hint on the little teaser of what's going to happen in the segment that I do. But him and I just didn't see eye to eye. So it kind of like I was happy in a way, but I was sad in a way too. Was sad.
Let's leave it there as a taster teaser there, Brent.
Yeah, I'll leave that
because we are getting almost to an hour and a half.
Yeah,
that's a perfect place to end it there.
Yeah, I'm gonna end it on that part, because keep people intrigued. Oh my, this seems like it might be a good episode. It'll be interesting, but it's more of a kind of a story on how I grew up in poverty. But my mom taught me a lot through the time of what she went through, and that's part of the teaser of what she went through. And that's all I'm going to say, is what she went through and what she taught me going forward. And that's why I am now where I am here.
And we're all learning from each other, right?
Yeah, we're all learning.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Jake, thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for helping your dad with Canadians with disabilities and their allies, the programming, the music. Yeah, I mean, you're just outstanding, like for what you're doing. And keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep going with your passion. Your music. Who knows? You might be the next artist.
Michael Bublé.
Hey, Michael, are you watching
Fly
this?
me to the moon. You can sing that.
That's not Michael.
Well, yeah, I think he does that song. Why don't you sing that as our outro? Fly me to, so people can get a taste of your voice. Do it.
Okay.
You can do it.
I
Don't be shy.
I want my piano, but I guess
No, you can do it a cappella.
I could do an acapella.
And this is a good way that we're going to end this segment. Is Jake's
Yeah.
gonna he's just going to be himself, and yeah. And so before Jake starts,
you don't need music with it. Just do it.
I'm
It won't come across anyway.
I'm gonna say bye to everybody. But I'm gonna leave with Jake to end it. And once again, please click and like and subscribe to Neil's YouTube channel. Keep up to date on all the segments coming through, all the shows. The new segment that I have is Traveling with Brent and Sonia. There'll be new episodes coming up as I can. Stay tuned. I know that they got a lot of good feedback on my last segment that we had, our traveling one. That was fun.
That was a fun one to put together.
That was great, and I'm looking forward to the next adventure, whatever that may be. But until then, and I'm going to pass it over to Jake. And bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Until our next episode.
Goodbye. This is Angel.
Okay. Probably be better if you didn't have that.
It's fine. I need it for myself for like a metronome or whatever, to stay on beat. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on a Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. Baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
Right on, right on.
It's my dancing. My chair dancing.
Is that it?
Yeah. Okay. Bye, Ron.
Thanks, everyone.